right. So is there any like time saving things? Because like okay, so got past the initial fear and now I know what to do. How do I make sure it gets done? Like, I mean, most people that I run into, like, man, I don't have time for anything. So we're talking about adding an extra thing to our already busy lives. Do you have any suggestions on how best to approach this as far as like, getting off your butt and doing it, like a schedule of some kind?
Yeah, the best thing, in my opinion, is to batch the tasks. One of the key parts of content marketing that makes it so effective is consistency. So if you're publishing on a consistent basis, now the frequency, that's a different story. Like what it's going to depend on your industry and what your intentions are, or what your goals are with your content marketing. That's going to determine your frequency of publishing. So that's, how often you publish. But consistency should be key regardless of what your frequency is. So what I mean by that is, you might only post once a month. That's fine. Post on the same day every month is my point, and be consistent with it.
Okay.
If you post once a week, that's great, but make sure you post on Wednesday at 3 p.m. every week or something like that, so that as you start to develop an audience and stuff, people become they depend on that, and that you want that regularity and that frequency, and you want and that's what I think makes it the most effective. And also for the SEO part of it, it gives the proper signals, and having consistency there builds trust over time, and it continues to build the content up on your site that's all relevant to your industry, so it makes your site become more authoritative. So there's a ton of SEO benefits in that as well. So my point is, when it comes to time to, like what you said, how to get started and not knowing how to do the time, what I found is to batch those tasks to where, like, if I'm going to sit down and curate, and again, if you're doing this for your own blog or something, that's fine. I encourage you to learn how to curate anyways. But if you're doing this for like a service, if you're providing this as a service or whatever, outsource this, guys. Outsource this. But even for the those of you that want to do it yourself, what I recommend is that you sit down and you do like a 3-hour block of time or whatever, where you just do one post after another, and you schedule them to be published in your blog. Okay, that way you get the consistency that if something happens, let's say you post once per week and you sit down within a 3-hour window or a 4-hour period or whatever, you end up publishing 3 or 4 really good curated posts that you're going to publish on your own blog. Well, now you've got a whole entire month's worth of posts already ready and scheduled to go. If you schedule them to be published in your blog, they're ready to go. So the next week you schedule the same time if you can, or maybe you do it every 2 weeks or something like that, and you start to build this queue, these posts up in queue that are going to be scheduled to go out, so that if something catastrophic happened, it wouldn't interrupt those blogging. In other words, like if you were to do that, let's say you'd posted once per week, excuse me. So that's 4 posts per month, and you every 2 weeks you sat down and did a block of just curating, publishing curated post time, whatever, and you just generate the content. Then let's say you did 4 in that time every single 2 weeks. Within just a few months, you'd have pretty much 6 months scheduled out in advance. And that way, if anything ever were to happen to you or your business, or you needed some time off or whatever, you'd have your blog would be steadily pumping out content because you already had it scheduled. So that's the biggest key, in my opinion, is to just start backing that up and banking posts, in other words. And the best way to do that is to kind of batch the task, because if you are publishing once a week and you make yourself sit down and write or curate a post once per week, you're probably not going to be very consistent. I mean, it's very difficult for the people to always sit down and publish a post on the same day every single week. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like sometimes you just don't have the motivation to do it. Like it's not every day you're like, yeah, I'm going to get out there and take on the world.
Something comes up or whatever, and then you start, the consistency falters, and you start to lose some of the audience and some of the trust and blah, blah, blah. And so it's just better just to go ahead and batch them out. And plus, like I've said in other trainings that I talk about, everything has momentum. And so if you're in the zone of curating posts, curating content and writing, and you're in that whole creative mode, then it's better to stay in that mode and keep doing that than it is to try to get into that mode once per week. At least with me, it takes a ton of time for me to get into that creative mode. So once I'm there, I want to try to get all my creative work done as much as I can. So
yeah, preaching to the choir, man. So I can tell you case in point. Actually, a very recent story. Yesterday, out of nowhere, power goes off for me. I mean,
Yeah.
like it was really surprising because it's been so long since I've ever had any like power outages and stuff. But it was bizarre because I don't know, have you ever had a vehicle stolen or anything like that?
No, thank God.
Okay, well, like there's that moment where like you know something's wrong and you just don't know what to do. You're like, wait, this just happened. Is this real? I mean, I spent half the day trying to figure out what to do with myself because I'm always working, right? So like having that set up, like that's my point is getting those batches is very important. Of course, beyond just the I don't feel motivated, like you were saying, like there's just
Yeah.
stuff that comes up that you aren't able to control, and getting back to that can be very, very difficult. So,
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
right,
and so
well,
having all those, and yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, having all that stuff scheduled it out, it creates like peace of mind. It's like insurance, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's having it there. It just really does. Like because even my curators, my lead curators, the ones that post on money sites and client sites, there's always at least 2 or 3 posts scheduled out in advance, so that if anything happens with any of them where they get sick or whatever, there's at least a week or two's worth of posts already scheduled in the bank and queued out to where it doesn't take any intervention on my part whatsoever. And that's why I said my content marketing business just hums along and with, I mean, very, very little input from me because we just got this good system that works. And and it's just because of having good curators that I trained myself. And this is something it's a trainable process. That the Content Kingpin training is exactly what whenever I hire a new curator, all I do is give them that training, and that's essentially what they go through. And then we do some back and forth, obviously via Skype, but that's it. And then they're trained.
oh wow. So if I got Content Kingpin, I could do the same thing with my own virtual assistant. Just be like,
Absolutely.
there you go.
Absolutely. There's no reason for you to have to create the training yourself. If you want to, there's going to be probably supplemental trainings that you're going to have to create specific to projects and stuff that you're working on with your curators or your virtual assistants that you hire as curators. There's no doubt there's going to be some requirement on your part to be able to train virtual assistants specifically for your business or your client's business, whatever. But for the principles of how to learn how to curate and the concept and how to do it, how to actively, actually do the work. Content Kingpin is exactly what, I mean, the training is the same training that I give to my virtual assistants. What we did was we just kind of repackaged it and prettied it up to make it a product for the masses too. But my point was that, that it really is the same exact training that I give to the curators that I hire. Within, again, just some additional stuff that's more project specific, obviously, but it's, it's that good. You can take a virtual assistant and put them through, if you purchase Content Kingpin, you can, put your virtual assistant, give them access to your training, let them go through it, and then they should be able to curate by the time they're done.
Wow. See, I don't know of many courses that are so thorough in their explanation that you can hand it off to a person who doesn't natively speak English and they can take care of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason our training is that way is because, we have going on 30 virtual assistants now, and so we create the training to train our virtual assistants on the processes that we use in our business, and then because it works so well, we end up making products out of it and selling them so that other people can benefit from the work that we've done already, then proven that it works, so.